Good evening, this is the news from ITN. Tonight's headlines. The Bosnian Serbs withdraw their tanks but keep up their stranglehold on Gorazda. Here the police smash a multi-million-pound forgery operation. And in cricket, Brian Lara makes England suffer as he reaches a triple century. Tonight, the tanks of the Bosnian Serb army are reported to have withdrawn from the town of Gorazda. Earlier, they'd forced their way almost to the centre. Thousands fled in panic and 21 people are said to have been killed. The Serb advance came just hours after they'd agreed to end the siege of Gorazda. John Major and Bill Clinton discussed the crisis by telephone. And the UN Security Council is meeting now to discuss today's events in Gorazda.
The UN tonight stood down a multinational force assembled to move into Gorazda. The peace they'd been hoping to monitor in the town was in tatters. As they were due to set off, reports came through that Serb tanks had entered the town firing shells. These fighting men are only allowed to defend themselves, not the people of Gorazda, so they'd nothing to do but wait. Throughout the day, reports filtered through that the UN had ordered airstrikes against the Serb tanks surrounding Gorazda, but the strikes had been aborted by bad weather. The Serbs are now reported to have stopped shelling the town and withdrawn their tanks. One theory is that word of the ceasefire has only just reached them, but the Bosnian government thinks it's a tactical retreat.
Well, they're firing into flesh now, practically. The tanks fire from 200 meters into people, not into buildings.
Earlier in the day, it had all been so promising. UN envoy Akashi had thought he'd hammered out a deal with the Serbs.
Ceasefire in and around Gorazde should become effective immediately.
The Bosnian Serb leader gave this assurance.
We will do something and we will achieve something concerning ceasefire, standstill of activities, disengagement of the forces as far as it is possible.
But within hours the shelling had resumed. The Russians, who'd used their influence with the Serbs to broker the talks, were bitter.
I've heard more broken promises in the past 48 hours than probably in the rest of my life. So it's really with great sadness that I'm going now to Sarajevo and, well, let's see what's going to happen.
And tonight in Sarajevo, a chastened Mr. Akashi was pessimistic.
I'm afraid that the prospect for immediate improvement of the situation does not look good.
The British UN force were also in sombre mood, with the news that one of their colleagues was shot dead by police at a roadblock. They said the soldier, who was in civilian clothes, had run away when challenged during a curfew.
Here, police have smashed a suspected currency forging operation involving millions of pounds in fake notes. When detectives raided a printing works in North London today, forged notes were rolling off the presses. 4 men are being questioned.
Fake pounds printed on reams of paper, ready for circulation on the high street. Each one a sophisticated copy that could fool all but the expert's eye. The police raided these North London printworks and interrupted the counterfeiters in full swing. These machines allegedly turning out millions of pounds in forged notes.
We could see that it's quite substantially intricate in its method. And it's a professional body, professional printing company that is sidelined into producing counterfeit currency.
When police interrupted the print run this morning, they uncovered over £5 million worth of counterfeit sterling. But elsewhere in the building, they've uncovered a variety of currencies, including Spanish pesetas, US dollars, and even Romanian lei. The crime squad believe that fake cash could have been produced at the site for up to 4 months. It's not known how much money has already seeped into circulation here or overseas. Charlotte Hume, ITN in North London.
In South Africa, 3 people have been crushed to death at an election rally. It happened in a stadium tunnel in Cape Province as the ANC leader Nelson Mandela was about to speak. More than 20 people were injured. A British man is tonight preparing to go to Cambodia to look for his son, kidnapped at gunpoint nearly a week ago. Dominic Chappell and his Australian girlfriend vanished on Monday, along with a second Briton, Tina Domini.
The 3 young Westerners were kidnapped in an area of southern Cambodia where fighting is still rife between government troops and the notorious Khmer Rouge. Unidentified gunmen have held them for almost a week now.
Hello.
In Hong Kong, Dominic Chappell's father waits anxiously for news. They have been sighted alive, but he's still trying to find out their exact whereabouts. Dominic and his Australian girlfriend Kelly had gone to Cambodia last summer looking for adventure. He'd got a job running a restaurant. He was learning the language and had planned to stay in the country for some time. His father knew he was taking a risk being in Cambodia, but still couldn't believe his son had been kidnapped.
Because of the situation in Cambodia, it was a possibility that could happen sometime. But it's one of those things that always happens to somebody else.
The young couple were travelling along a main road when they were captured, along with a British girl just visiting them on holiday. The restaurant they ran is now standing empty, boarded up until their return. Caroline Kerr, ITN, Hong Kong.
In other news, police are tonight still questioning a 32-year-old man over the death of a pensioner whose body was found daubed in white paint. Ronald Cousins, who was 78, was found dead at his home in Chelmsford in Essex. He'd been stabbed and strangled. The Church of Ireland Primate Archbishop Robin Eames today issued a strong condemnation of loyalist paramilitaries. The Protestant church leader said they'd made life cheap. The actor Sir John Gielgud, who was 90 last Thursday, is to have a theatre named in his honour. The Globe Theatre in London's West End will be officially renamed in October. Cricket in the West Indies, Brian Lara hit his way into the record books with a triple century in the 5th Test against England today. A short time ago, the West Indies were 487 for 4.
Brian Lara returned to the recreation ground fortified not just by a night's sleep but also a round of golf, and he was soon back in the swing, a series of boundaries compounding England's misery. The 24-year-old from Trinidad had started the day 36 runs short of his double Test century, and he wasn't about to disappoint the crowd. They didn't have to wait long. A ball from Chris Lewis, the Lara genius, and the young West Indian was 200 not out. He'd warned yesterday, "I'm not finished yet," and he meant it. The afternoon's play saw him pass 250 and go on to 273 by tee. Suddenly it looked as if another milestone was within reach. Some typically English weather gave the tourists a brief respite, but the interruptions didn't interrupt Lara's flow. It came just under half an hour ago. The triple Test century.
In motor racing, Germany's Michael Schumacher won the Pacific Grand Prix in Japan. His main rival Ayrton Senna spun out at the first corner, enabling Schumacher to record his second successive victory. Britain's Damon Hill was forced to retire. Football and Division 1 leaders Crystal Palace secured promotion to the Premier League today without kicking a ball. It happened when two of their main rivals, Nottingham Forest and Millwall, drew. Steve Stone's headed equaliser for second-placed Forest brought his side even closer to clinching automatic promotion themselves. A runner who collapsed and died during the London Marathon was tonight named as Michael Coleman from Hampshire. Mr. Coleman, who was 52, was the third competitor to die in 5 years. The race was won by the favourite, Mexico's Dionisio Cheron.
The men who cracked the 4-minute mile barrier 40 years ago were back together to start today's event. Sir Roger Bannister, who once described marathon runners as an odd bunch, set them off. Most were hoping just to finish, but at the front, pacemakers were hoping to drag the world's best towards a record time. But the wind proved too much for Eamon Martin. He was to end up 8th. In the women's race, no pacemaker and at times no pace as the leaders struggled against the conditions. It didn't bother the rest of the field, and at the finish, it had hardly affected the Mexican Cheron, whose time was remarkable in the conditions. His third victory under the 9-minute barrier.
I feel excited and happy for win the race and for make my 3 time under 209 in 3 years. It's too much for me, I think.
For the German Katrin Dora, the glory of a third win in a row. For the stragglers, the new finish outside Buckingham Palace couldn't come soon enough.
The entertainer Dudley Moore got married for the 4th time today to his American girlfriend Nicole Rothschild in California. Less than a month ago, he was arrested for allegedly beating her. He likened the wedding ceremony to himself, short and funny. And that's the long and the short of it tonight. From all of us here at ITN, good night.
Hello again. Well, I'm afraid there's a change in the way over the next 24 hours or so as outbreaks of rain make their way from the northwest to many parts of the country. So let's go straight to tomorrow morning's wind flow chart. Here's how things look. We've got high pressure out to the west, but then this frontal system is going to move in from the northwest as well, bringing cloudier conditions as well as those outbreaks of rain. Now here's how we expect the rain to move tonight, getting into the north and west. Meanwhile, the south and east staying largely dry and rather chilly. Then tomorrow, that band of rain starts pushing its way southeastwards with brighter but quite showery weather following in behind from the northwest. So let's come back to tonight then. Northern Ireland and Scotland seeing some patchy light rain moving in during the night. Elsewhere though, mainly dry with clear skies in places, allowing temperatures to fall enough to give some frost and ground frost. Then tomorrow we watch that band of mainly patchy light rain heading towards central parts of the country, brighter and showery to the northwest, but the south and east getting off to a reasonably dry and bright start. Even there though, as the day goes on, cloud tending to bubble up, but many southern parts should actually stay dry throughout the day. Temperatures then quite similar to today's, despite the cloud and rain, at around 11 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Good night.
Central Weather, sponsored by Legal & General.
Hello there. The central region is on its way down to a low of 0 for tonight. Skies have been clearing out over the last few hours. A widespread ground frost with temperatures like that. Maybe an air frost for some rural parts too. But it means a lovely morning tomorrow. Should be fairly sunny. High cloud floating down from the northwest, so sun getting hazier through the day. But it will stay dry. Make the most of it. That's it. Bye-bye.